Good morning, everyone. My name is Sarah Tromans. I'm lead technologist for urban living at InnovateUK. InnovateUK is the government's innovation agency, and we're one of the sponsors of Bristol Festival for the Future City. So this morning, and what you guys are all here to discuss, is UK high streets and their decline and what we intend to do about it. Between 2011 and 2013, store city centre vacancy rates in the UK doubled. And currently, consumers spend over 50% of their outlay away from UK high streets. This is largely due to the rise of online shopping and out-of-town retail parks, which are more convenient for people to go to. About 18 months ago, InnovateUK decided to run a competition looking to address this issue. We asked for innovative solutions in retail, logistics, and travel management in order to help bring people back to UK high streets. 15 companies were successful in phase one of this competition, and they received £100,000 apiece to write feasibility study reports over a 6-month period. In these reports, we asked them to identify a challenge facing UK high streets and tell us what they intended to do about addressing that challenge. 3 of those 15 companies were successful in phase 2 of the competition, and they've each received £1 million to develop prototypes and deploy them live into UK high streets. And you are going to hear from those 3 companies this morning: Rewarding Visits, Proxama, and Snap Fashion. I'm now very quickly going to show you a video that we've put together recently, which takes some of the best ideas that came out of phase 1 of the competition. This is a glimpse into what the future UK high street could look like with a little bit of innovation.
UK high streets were once the heart of our communities, overflowing with a diverse range of shops and services. But many customers are now choosing the convenience of online shopping and out-of-town retail parks. Private sector jobs and public services are also moving away from city centres. This decline in footfall has led to high street shops closing in their thousands. The impact of these changes could be catastrophic, with falling employment rates and failing local economies. This is why InnovateUK has invested £5 million in the Reimagining the High Street SBRI competition. Its aim is to regenerate the high street by exploring innovative approaches to retailing and logistics. Just imagine what the high street could look like. New technologies that combine physical and virtual shopping to create a hybrid clicks and bricks high street. New kinds of data use with novel methods for capturing customer insights. A networked high street that connects and matches the needs of consumers and businesses in simple, secure apps. Enhanced consumer experience through targeted deals, information provision, and social media. Voucher points in high streets where customers can print offers for local shops without the need for smartphones, engaging a wider demographic. Improved communication systems for seamless movements of goods to and from high streets, and products supplied on demand using time-based technology. Enhanced travel management to make getting to and from the high street more enjoyable. Increased collaboration between local organisations, providing real-time information and convenient ways of advance booking parking and other services. Here at InnovateUK, we're committed to helping the high street use technology to evolve and thrive. By enhancing the experience for all, high streets can once again become an essential part of local communities. The best way to predict the future is to invent it.
Okay, thank you. So for the next 50 minutes, we have 4 fantastic speakers. I'm going to introduce them now. They're each going to come up and kind of do a talk, and I'm hoping at the end we'll have time for questions. So we're going to start off with Guy Douglas, who's leading on the government's Digital High Street 2020 agenda. We're then going to hear from Guy Chatburn, founder of Rewarding Visits, then Jenny Griffiths, CEO of Snap Fashion, and last but certainly not least, Neil Garner, executive founder of Proxama. Guy, over to you.
I was employed as the Digital High Street Programme Manager at the Association of Town and City Management, and I helped create the whole skills focus on high streets and the realizing that we had to change. I would sort of add some context to that video. I think high streets, yes, they have declined, but I think they're not in decline. I think they are changing, and I think that's what we've got to grapple with. A point that was made over coffee earlier is that I think consumers in this day and age are probably more adept, more digitally capable than the retailers themselves on the high street. I think that's part of what we've got to focus on. So when I left ATCM, I was asked to support the Future High Street Forum's Digital High Street Advisory Board and put together a policy report called Digital High Street 2020. It was published in March this year. If you Google it, you'll find it. It's on the Great British High Street website. And 4 recommendations came out of that, and that's really what I'm following through on now. It makes the report, firstly, took a more holistic view of the high street. And as that video, I think, very rightly and correctly said, the high street proposition to the citizen, consumer of today, is not just a sum of retail transactions. It's a whole lot more. It's the place that's the center of the heart of the community. With the recent events in Paris, I would venture to suggest that if you looked around this country and France, you'd find people gravitating towards places that they felt connected to. I remember I was in the States when 9/11 happened, and the following day, in my revitalization job in the downtown area, I saw people come to the center of the community because that's where they were connected to. And I think we have to realize that attribute of a town and city center, of a high street, and factor in the digital engagement that the modern connected consumer expects. So the report had 4 key recommendations, one of which was to do with infrastructure. And it basically said to the government's level of broadband connectivity, we'll see your broadband connectivity level and we'll raise you. And they did. And that's actually been responded to very positively. The second one was to do with skills. And we've since found out in some survey work that Innovate has commissioned that skills needs are of a basic level and an intermediate level. You find that there are a lot of small businesses and non-profits and micro-businesses and social enterprises that have a very, very low digital threshold at this moment in time. And there are others that don't. There are others that have already taken a few steps down the digital high street. So we have to be cognizant of skills needs that have different tiers, different levels. And then the 2 recommendations in the report that I'm perhaps most engaged with now. One was the creation of a high street digital hub, essentially a form of trusted guidance for places. As a hub, it would be an online portal of curated content. That would be solutions, services, and skills training. It would also be a team of people that would engage with the folks that manage places. Now, place management is a really boots on the ground kind of job. I've done it. I know about heroin addicts and chewing gum and Christmas lights and all of those things that make up the place. I also understand the way that people move around places, the way that the customer journey starts very often way away from a town or city centre. I also understand that journey now involves digital channels and touch points that we've got to get to grips with. The consumer's got to grips with them, but I think many elements of our high streets have not, and we have to redress that. So we're looking at this trusted guidance hub approach to helping those that manage places to get the confidence and the know-how and have access to the right tools in the toolbox. If you think of them as shepherds looking after a flock of small businesses and non-profits, their job is to get the flock online, to adapt a Mel Gibson phrase from Lethal Weapon. Get the flock online, you know what I mean. It's that simple. It's about discoverability, and it's about telling stories, and it's about helping high streets and the whole community of a high street to tell its story, giving them the tools and the confidence to do so. It's about understanding how people move around places. One of the, as a place manager, one of the things that was drummed into me, the 4 key attributes of a successful place. So it's got to be clean, it's got to be safe, it's got to be vibrant, and it's got to be accessible. Well, accessible in this day and age doesn't just mean physically accessible, it means digitally accessible. How many places do you look at? And the digital accessibility, it's like you're looking at a digital desert. What you want as a consumer, as a citizen, in your place, you want a digital oasis. We've got to help make that happen. The 4th recommendation was a way of measuring the digital capacity of a high street. And Telefonica created a thing called the Digital Health Index, which uses location and movement data from mobile network operation. And essentially, they're able to get a real deep dive into a granular sub-postcode level. You know cell masts, basically. Cell mast equals sub-postcode, okay? So you look at an area, and you can get a pretty good digital impression of levels of connectivity, how people use a place, where they come from, how long they stay, how they move, how long they take from here to there, what they do, their use of different aspects of data, voice, SMS, and so on. So a digital health index is one of the outputs of this report, and Telefonica is still developing that tool. Those 4 elements are what I've been working on to bring those forward since March into a pilot process. We're about to put together a pilot scheme next year in a number of locations, and pending the digital board's sort of strategy green light, we're about ready to press the button and go forward. And we would look to be working with locations and people in those locations to say, what sort of digital plan might you come up with? I'm not trying to impose a cookie cutter on anybody. We're trying to say, can we help you think digitally and come up with a plan for your area? So there's a vision of a plan. On the other hand, we've got this menu of solution providers, and today we've got 3 of them here. And these are the folks that have some incredible tools in the toolbox that every place needs to understand. I'm not going to sit and endorse any one of them, but I hope in the process that I'm involved with that I can explain every one of them. I think there's a critical difference there. That trusted guidance that places need has to be impartial, and I'm very much involved in that process. And thank you, Innovate, for also being part of that process, because it's critical that this sharing of know-how gets out there. Now, having been a place manager, my phone used to go every so often with people going, I've got an app, and I'm very happy for you. But essentially, people were trying to sell me things the whole time. What I wanted as a place manager was somebody to say to me, let me explain all these things that these various things do. And with that knowledge, we're hoping to have a local plan in one hand, a menu of these guys and others like them on the other, and go, right, we need those and those and those to do this in the plan. So having the support for innovators, like the 3 folks you're about to hear from Innovate, is quite important. These solutions don't just magically appear from thin air. They come from intellectual and financial investment, and I'm really excited to hear more. The challenge that I'm going to throw to all of them is perhaps to learn how to collaborate. A lot of these innovations are from SMEs, and rightly so. That's where most innovation does come from. But the innovation has happened in many instances within a commercially protected environment. What I've learned in the past 2 years, looking at all the solution providers that are out there, is that if you're able to take different solutions and go, what if that one and that one and that one could be layered together and given a sort of a mobile optimization that you can actually see as a consumer, isn't that a better experience for you of your place than I think what exists now, which is I've got a smartphone with about 4 pages of apps, most of which I never use, and it's really difficult to decide which of them have value. I would love to see collaboration come about, and I hope in the process that I'm engaged with now to facilitate the kind of collaboration from these folks that I think is necessary. But enough from me. Let's hear about some real innovation. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Guy. My name is Guy Chatburn. I'm the founder of a company called Rewarding Visits. We've named it like they say. It does what it says on the tin. It's about rewarding visits to retailers in the high street, bricks and mortar retailers as they're called. And the opportunities we saw it was how we felt that the bricks and mortar retailers are losing out in the digital marketplace now to their online rivals or to their own online departments, where their own online departments and the small guy in the back office knows an awful lot more about their customers than the people who've got the investment in the shops and the rates and the rent and the staff. And largely, their customers are still unknown to them. And more importantly, how many of them could contact their customers that came in over last week and market to them this week if it's a slow week or if it's raining and they need to fill the place again. And the challenge is that very many can't do that at the moment. So our opportunity, we felt, was to try and redress that balance, to make people in the high street more in contact with the retailers, and the retailers to get to know their customers digitally far better, make them contactable. And that in some way will help redress it, because the high street has got a lot of advantages over online, because you can touch the product, you can feel the quality, you can talk to the staff. So get that right, we felt. It was something worth going for. And above all, we want to make it affordable, and we also want to make it easy to bring about. So yes, it's an app. It's a customer app. Rewarding Visits is available to consumers, and it's a universal app. Once you've downloaded it, you can use it at participating places. So I'd go further and say it's a network that we are hoping that retailers pick up on. Because once you are joined it as a retailer, you get a second app. And this is an app you can put on your phone as a retailer, or a tablet, or an iPad, or a Kindle Fire. And what you can do is you can scan customers who come into your place. And as a result of that, you, as the retailer, can make an offer or a reward for coming next time. And that is basically it. It's the digital equivalent of being online. It's the ability to communicate with your customers and see if they come back as a result and change your marketing strategy accordingly. Because what you get is the ability to do direct marketing now to what were previously anonymous customers. So you can welcome the newcomers. We all like a welcome. But if you don't come back in, say, 2 or 3 weeks' time, maybe a little incentive might help. You can reward regulars. Everyone likes to be rewarded for going regularly, but at the moment, loyalty cards and apps are only being used by where it's habitual to go. So you kind of would only pick one up if you're going there anyway. There's a much, much bigger market of infrequent people who only go occasionally, and this picks that up, and the retailer can see that. You can target your promotions at quiet times. There is no point saying, come to my bar on Friday night. It's rammed and it's 5 deep at the bar. But Tuesdays, when it's raining, that's a different matter. And age-relevant offers, getting the right marketing for the right time for the right person, that's all about success. But at the moment, too many retailers we've come across are doing generic advertising, which are picked up by everybody, including the loyal people. And that's just driving margins down. Now, our challenge, we worked with a town centre, Sutton Coldfield. I don't know if any of you know it, in the West Midlands. It's a part of Birmingham City Council area, but it's proud of its own separate identity. We work with the town centre's business improvement district. They're a bunch of hard-headed people. They're paying an extra levy on the rates to try and promote the town. And they commissioned, through ourselves and InnovateUK, a survey. And they said, this app is great, it's fantastic, but we're worried that not everyone in Sutton Coldfield is going to use it. And we'd like to have a town centre-based promotion, but app only. And we found that 26% of people in Sutton Coldfield admitted they did not have access to smartphones. But what was more interesting was when we delved deeper into it, people with smartphones, half of them were reluctant to use them in town, get them out and use them. A number of reasons. Lack of places to use them, lack of reasons why to do it, poor connectivity, Wi-Fi signal, the 3G, the 4G interacting with their Wi-Fi as they went in and out of the concrete bunker buildings that form the Grace Church Centre. The fear that someone might nick their £600 supercomputer from their hand as they did it. All kinds of reasons. But again, the bid said to us, look, that's about 2/3 of the people in town at this very moment in time. Yes, we know mobile's growing, but at the moment, possibly won't benefit from an app. So that was our challenge. So it may seem low tech, but a card is a solution as well. People love cards, they're cheap, and with a little QR code on, just like the one on the phone, it works just as well. So my 95-year-old mother can use it as well. And it does allow a town to create their own design. And one of the things we found is people really like Sutton Coldfield. The people who live there, they all pull together for the town. And so the bid produced the Rewards in Sutton Coldfield card on our network alongside our app. And these are our results 15 months in. The bottom right-hand corner, that's the pie chart that shows ages. And we are very, very pleased to see that the bid was right. We've now got all age groups covered, including, in the top left-hand corner, that's the 65 plus. So you can get everyone in town to join in the town scheme. We've had 18,000 scan visits, so the retailers who chose to use tablets and scan cards have built up their own dashboards and they've built up their own demographic database. And I can tell you that the Empire Cinema has a very young demographic and Patisserie Valerie has a much older demographic, and that's not surprising, but that's how it is. Now they can do marketing in a very educated and smart way. Actionable insight, we call it. Our new challenge now, as we see it, is to take this further and include every business. And as Guy said earlier, we found that a lot of retailers are perhaps behind the consumers on the digital curve. First of all, the breakdown in Sutton Coldfield is not dissimilar from an awful lot of places in where you're familiar with. It's a lot of multiples. There's a good indie sector, but they tend to be out of the centre of town. When we talked to them about, would you like to join the town centre marketing initiative called Rewards in Sutton Coldfield, they said, yep, we are absolutely willing. And briefly, they're both exactly the same kind of proportion, we're willing. But this is where the rub came. Only 20% of the chain stores were able, because head office said no, or the computer said no, or their structures said no. No local initiatives, we just keep it head office. It's got to be on a barcode that we can be read by our till. But nice idea, we'd love to be part of it if you could make it work for us. And then the problem number 2, Wi-Fi said no. We found that a lot of the shops, pubs, restaurants may have access to public Wi-Fi, but private Wi-Fi, they weren't so well equipped at all. So what we did was we filled some of that gap back up by providing our own Wi-Fi, little Wi-Fi network, using little EE 4G dongles, and that got us going. As you can see from that graphic, we've basically got about 20% of the market in Sutton Coldfield. And what InnovateUK has managed to do with reimagining the high street is help us start to address that digital divide, bridge that gap. So our response was to get the clipboard out again. And we talked to shoppers, and yes, about 80-20 again, but this time 80% of shoppers saying they were unaware of the rewards in town. And that made us really realise, because the feedback was, look, hey, I've got my phone, and I've got my app, and I've got my card, but I can't see where to use it. there's 90 shops in the shopping centre. Which ones? Go look for a little window sticker. And that's what we found is the trouble is when you get personal and get down onto your phone, it is hidden. It's kind of rather, hidden away. And retail's all about big. It's all about see it. It's all about promotion. So we've come up with touch points, which are digital interactive screens, which shout it loud in the marketplace, literally in the marketplace. So they're going to be wayfinders, and they're going to be event displays. So the town centre can say, these are the participating places, these are the deals, this is where you can go, and the Christmas lights, and Santa Claus is coming on Sunday. Offers and suggestions or promotions, so it's 10% off this week, or so-and-so has got 2-for-1 happy hours, etc. But what makes it different is you scan your card in your app now to Touchpoint, and then those offers can then become personal based on whether you've been many times or you've only been there for once the first time and you're a visitor. Another big learning was, however we talk about vouchers, we all privately all like it. I think seriously, if we actually put our hands up, we all like a deal. Post-recessional Britain, shoppers still like using vouchers. 91% of people like using vouchers, so why not print out the vouchers? So the touch points will print out vouchers for people who want them in their hand, or they'll put them on their phone app, as they currently do now. And that leads us to the 80-20 rule again. And at the moment, as I've admitted to you, in Sutton Coldfield, 20% of the chains are not participating because head office systems say no, or Wi-Fi is not there. And so the way we seek to address that, and the feedback we've had from the chains is, well, look, if you can put one of our little EPOS barcodes on those little vouchers that get printed off, or display it on your phone, if our scanners can scan it, then we can join in with the national promotion. So what you effectively become is not a local exclusive deal, but another marketing channel, but delivered locally. And what we hope is that, and all the feedback we get is that by engaging the popular chains as well as the indies, then it becomes elevated from being just niche, and it becomes mainstream. And by making it mainstream, it becomes popular. By making it popular, it becomes more used and it's more visible, and it generates business for the town centre in Sutton Coldfield. And then with our project, we're looking for 2 other locations around the country to take this to. So that's our work in progress. That's Rewarding Visits. My name's Guy Chatburn. Thank you very much.
So hi everyone, I'm Jenny and I'm the founder of a company called Snap Fashion. What I thought I'd do today is tell you a bit about what Snap is, although apparently my presentation has other ideas and I'm just going to roll through it straight away. But yeah, I'll tell you a bit about what Snap is, and at that point you'll probably think that we're one of these big evil e-commerce companies, and then I'll explain how we're taking those learnings and turning them into something that we can actually use to help reimagine the high street today. So fingers crossed this actually works. So I have to say I'm really pleased to be back here today. I'm actually a graduate from Bristol University and in a computer science degree, as I'm doing a really bad job of demonstrating with my use of the computer right now. But yeah, it's great to be back, and kind of always a pleasure to be in the city. And what Snap Fashion is it's a visual search engine for fashion. So what that means is you can see something you like, take a photo on your mobile phone, and we find similar things to buy online. So the tagline that haunts me that I always try and get rid of, but it gets it across quickly, is we're a bit like Shazam for fashion. So that's how we started off 4.5 years ago. First people in the world to be able to do this on mobile and web, and we're still the only people in the world who can do it based on the shape of an item. So that's kind of my big passion, is that kind of computer vision algorithm side of things. But what we found recently is that we've actually become a bit of a monetization tool online. So we've got the consumer side of the business where people are kind of snapping things left, right and centre, lots of shop windows, magazines, lots of dogs, weirdly, but there you go. But we also partner with brands direct. So we do visual search solutions for people like Westfield. So if you go into a massive shopping centre like Westfield or Cribbs Causeway or somewhere, you can quickly kind of say, I'm interested in this dress, find me everything similar within the shopping centre, and save me the pain of having to go into every single shop. I'm all about minimising human contact and walking. It's one of my charms. The other thing that we do is we monetize online content as well. So if you're reading a magazine online, so let's say we partnered with Look magazine, they've got a roundup of the top 50 little black dresses for Christmas. It was written last year, so everything's sold out. It's pretty much a useless article from a consumer's point of view, and also the publication can't monetize it. So what we can do is put a little snap it button on that content, and then we'll find everything similar on the high street today. So we're all about kind of taking the internet and all the images we see around us as a point of inspiration and using that to get people going on their shopping journey. So when it comes to retailers, we've got kind of 3 products which I can talk you through. So the first one is the Snap It button, and this is all about if you're online, you found the perfect outfit and it's all sold out in a size 10, you're just going to go and pop over to someone else's website and buy it from someone else. It's a massive problem for retailers, is kind of retaining that customer once they've paid for them through their marketing channels to actually visit the website. So what we do, you can see here, we just put a little Snap It button on all of their images. Really, really simple. All you have to do is tap it and it instantly shows you all of this really cool stuff. So we search about 16,000 brands in under half a second, pure computer vision. And as you can see, we can split results down into shape and then colour, so people can hone in on what it was they loved about that item in the first place. And we found it increases conversion rates by about 1/3, and it doubles the time spent on site. So it's all about just kind of rewarding the customer for actually visiting your website and just keeping them on there. The other thing that we do is our kind of bread and butter. We've got a mobile app. Mobile versus web is quite interesting. I'm not sure what you guys are finding, but people are really, really engaged with mobile apps because you've got that kind of real estate on their mobile phone. When it comes down to transactions, still people, I'm finding anyway, are still very much kind of web-based because, bigger images and more decision time. But anyway, you can take a photo of a colour. So for instance, you found this pair of shoes in a magazine. You can decide whether you want to match it to find something similar, whether you want to clash it to, find the perfect bag to go with your dress, be bold for the man who wants a tie to jump away from his suit, all these wonderful things. And then once again, we search 16,000 brands and we quickly just let people hone in on what it was they were looking for. And then this is what we're doing with magazines. So we've recently raised our investment from Time Inc., so big American scary publications. They've been absolutely fantastic to us. So we're live across sites like InStyle, Marie Claire and Look. And you can see it's a really nice simple proposition where we can say, this is what this girl was wearing. If you want to look a bit like a canary, then you can with Snap. So we'll find you the kind of low, medium and high priced options. Editors can still be in control of what they're showing to their users, which is so important in the media industry. But equally, we can just say, right, using that as a starting point now for a visual search, if the editor made those selections 6 months ago, you can now click here and you can still find everything similar. So it's just about taking away that friction in the retail process. And then the same for the lazy people who just don't even want to click, we can just put it in a sidebar advert. And instead of being stalked by that one item that you didn't buy for a really good reason around the internet that you kind of see for the next 30 days and it drives you nuts, we can actually say, this is the item that's still stalking you, but here are 3 alternatives that you might actually be interested in because it's actually at the right price point for you or it's in your right size, all those different reasons. So yeah, that's my evil e-commerce side to me. And I'll talk now about what we're actually doing with the UK High Street. So one thing that I found being kind of in e-commerce retailers, we have so much information on people, it's unbelievable. And then it struck me that the retailers I'm speaking to every day don't have that level of insight at all in their retail stores, and that's probably a theme between all of us. So we've invented Snap Fashion in Store, which is visual search for fitting rooms without cameras. Always have to say that. We're not putting cameras into fitting rooms, don't worry, I'm not completely evil. So what we're doing is putting tablets either next to mirrors or behind mirrors, just in case people steal them, and basically putting Ibeacons onto clothing. So each item of clothing in a store will have a little Ibeacon sitting in a security tag so it can be reprogrammed, environmentally friendly, all that kind of good stuff. But it basically lets a fitting room know when something's being taken into it. And I have to apologise, I speak about fitting rooms now like they're real people, so you can bear with me on that one. So you've just walked into this fitting room and it goes, fantastic, you have just taken in these 5 items. So it's a very personal experience already. You already feel really engaged with that shop. And you can say, I'm going to try on that slightly dubious looking dress in the middle, which I probably won't like. So after about 30 seconds, you've had time to try it on, kind of weigh it up in the mirror. And we ask you a really simple question of, do you love it or do you not like it? If you love it, it's really nice and simple. So we basically say, that's a dress, we're going to do some wonderful upselling, and here are the shoes that would go nicely with it, and kind of tempt you down that path. But the bit that really gets me interested is if you don't like it. So about 80% of things that are taken into fitting rooms aren't actually bought. It's a massive black spot in data for retailers because they don't know what's actually happening to that 80% where people just get switched off. And for a user, it's just really frustrating. You've bothered queuing up, you've bothered getting changed, like you actually want to buy something, you're in that mindset. So this is where we open up basically everything that's on the internet and turn this fitting room into basically a portal for online shopping. So you say, I don't like the dress, and we ask you 5 simple questions, and this was all from our user groups that we did in phase 1 of the feasibility study. And it's actually these 5 things that stop people from buying items of clothing. So you can say, I don't know, I've just tried on the dress, fits me really nicely, but actually the colour washed me out. Really simple information. The high street retailer will know that that's the problem with that particular item, but at volume you can see stuff incredibly quickly, like quality, price, all of those kind of things. And then we tap into different bits of the algorithm depending on what people are responding. So in this case, you didn't like the colour, so we'll show you everything in loads of different patterns and kind of get people discovering things online. So if you like the shape, we'll show you everything in that shape. If you like the colour, we'll show you everything in that colour. So you can kind of quickly hone in on what it is that's similar within that retailer. So it's kind of interesting to see where this will fit in the retail kind of experience, because obviously we're worried about people never leaving fitting rooms, which would be a really weird problem. So we're trialling it in a low-end, a medium-end and a high-end retailer. So people like Burberry, for instance, already have RFID technologies in fitting rooms. They already have that really high level of consumer experience. So that's a kind of natural place to try and slot it in. For the low-end retailers that we're speaking to, people like Primark, Oasis, Tesco, that's where I get really excited because fitting rooms haven't changed in 10 years. I think I'm quoted in the Telegraph as saying they're grotty, which makes me sound really intelligent. But it's true, you go into a fitting room, you don't want to be there. There's like stuff on the floor, the door doesn't close, all that kind of thing. So I think that's a really important thing to do for the UK High Street is make that experience of trying stuff online, which is the one benefit that the High Street has over online shopping, and kind of make that into this experience that people will actually enjoy. So thanks for your time.
So my name's Neil, and I am a guy, but I'm not a guy. And I'm talking from a company called Proxama, which I founded 10 years ago. So, and I've also got another confession to make, which again I think gives me a little bit of insight about the high street, is myself and my wife founded and ran a day spa for about 5 years, and therefore know quite intimately what it's like to run a small business on the high street that's desperate for custom and desperate for people on a Saturday morning, or when bookings don't happen or weddings get cancelled and things like that. Lots and lots of challenges for small businesses. And a passion of mine has been the mobile phone. So for 10 years, me and my company Proxama have been working on the fact that this thing is becoming a mobile wallet. Now, what we were doing for 10 years is now becoming the consumer vernacular of Apple Pay. And what I would also say as well, which we all have to be very, very aware of, is all the mobile phones that we're all carrying around in our pockets are owned and managed by Apple, Google, Microsoft, Samsung, Amazon. All those organisations are large US digital players that now have intimate connectivity into your mobile devices. And there's also another passion of mine is the fact that media is declining in many ways. So if I looked at traditional media, radio, TV, print, out of home, they're all sort of in decline. And the only reason they're in decline is because there's a lack of data. If you go online and you're Google or you're one of these big players like Facebook, I can use all the data that I have about the consumers that are using my web services, and as we just heard about, target somebody and do a lot of very, very clever things to optimise the journey or the products or the ads or the information that I can send to you via your web browser to be able to guide you to do some things. Now, what we have today on the high street is lots of out-of-home print materials, bit of digital signage, and we have a distinct lack of data that allows people who operate in the high street to be able to do things, to target people to be able to do things. So, thanks to Innovate UK, we had the great privilege to be able to spend some of our time, effort and money and do some proper consumer research on what was missing. So we got that, and most people have a smartphone today. They do wander around the high street today. Many people do use it on a regular basis, and even people of certain demographics are buying as default a new smartphone because that's what's sold by the operators, even if it's a slightly cheaper model compared to a feature phone. But the challenge is actually if you're using your mobile phone today, you see lots of people doing this, wandering around the high street, and they get run over sometimes. It's true. Or they actually are not experiencing all the richness that there is in the vibrant high streets. So what we wanted to be able to do is to create some technology that could just give people a little bit of information or a reminder of what's going on as part of their journey. I'm sitting on the bus and I'd like to know what's going on in the city. Is there a festival going on? Is there a special offer I could kind of get to be able to kind of give me a little bit more rewarding stuff? And actually, if I'm a small business and I can get into that particular moment when people are planning what they're going to do when they get to the city, and I can get them to come through my storefront and visit my store, that's absolutely fantastic. So what we did was we created an app called Loca. And I first heard about a technology called Ibeacon. So for those people that don't know what one is an Ibeacon is just something like this, a little black box with a battery in it. So what we've been doing is we're putting these little things into places like buses, bus shelters, store doorways, and actually whenever a consumer goes near it with one of our apps on their phone, if there's something relevant to you and you're interested in that thing, automatically goes ping, sends a message to your phone even when your phone's locked that can be, there's an offer for you that you're interested in, come and visit the store. And we've deliberately designed this and created it for the small businesses and the city centre owners and the people running events and festivals to be able to give people more of a quick alert. So it's just simply like, phone goes buzz, wander past something, well, that's interesting, click on it, gives me the content. Most apps and services today go through the experience of unlock my phone, think about, I've got an app for that, I'm sure I've got some loyalty and offers, yeah, I'll go and link into that, and then you'll kind of get it. Or you'll get an app from someone like VoucherCloud or Groupon, and you'll go and have a lovely restaurant meal, and then you'll get to the end of your meal and go, I bet I can get a discount off that, can't I? So then you look through your app, and then you get some discount off the merchant. It's not giving them any value, it's just actually destroying their profit margin, because you'd have gone to them anyway, and you're just trying to get a bit of a discount. So we created an app called Loca. So from a merchant perspective, this is just like a browser, but it's a browser on your phone that goes ping when you go near things in the city centre. So for the merchants, I've got a little thing on the homepage so that I can see what things are going on locally in the city, and I can change them depending on where I am. When I go near something, it can bring me straight to a whole page experience, which is my merchant content. I've got a free coffee, I've got a 10% discount. And actually, if we could integrate it with something like we heard earlier from the rewards, we could then also redeem that at the point of sale to be able to close the loop between an offer that's been triggered perhaps when I'm sitting on the bus, perhaps when I've gone past a billboard, or I've actually gone into a big department store and actually I've gone and purchased something. You can do that today online, but you can't do that today in the physical world. So in order to make it easy for merchants, because we did lots of consumer research, some people told us they're never ever going to fill stuff in. But basically we said, actually, if a merchant can set up a Facebook page, and we created a little portal for them to go in and manage their content and offers and information, and it goes ping whenever they go near one of these things in their stores or on the bus or in the high street, then that's something that we're doing. So actually, as we're going through with what we're doing with the Innovate UK money now, is we're actually designing and optimising and creating this to be able to create a easier service, so someone can just go in as a small merchant, select, I'll have the monthly deal, we get sent one of these things, they can put it in their store, and they can manage on a regular basis the content they want to deliver to people in and around the city centre, either off stuff they don't own, like buses or bus shelters, or things they do own, i.e. when this person's in my store. And our holy grail as we get to with all of this is maybe, if we've got enough of these things in hairdressers and stores in the high street, we could give money back to the hairdresser or the museum or the location owner because Coca-Cola wants to advertise in that location. So again, it could give them some messaging or services that they could get money from to cover the fact that they're spending a lot of money on actually having a presence on the high street. We're also working with city centre owners, so people like the BID, the people that put services together. Some of them have already got apps today, but again, we think there's not that much money flowing around, and there's lots and lots and lots and lots of apps, and you've got to have a really, really good app to be able to cut above all the others. So actually, we would like to be able to have an app that can be customised very easily, such that somebody can take very cheaply for a city centre a service that can easily customise, that tailors itself automatically to city centres. A bit like apps like City Mapper. So when you're in London, you get the London experience. When you're in Bristol, you get the Bristol experience. And this is the sort of thing we want to be able to provide on here. So we only started this new product called Loca in May last year, thanks to the InnovateUK money. We trialled it with various merchants in the city centre of Norwich. So in Norwich, there's almost 500 of these things across the city on buses, bus shelters, in stores. We've got almost 100 merchants now using the technology to do in-the-moment advertising. And we won a little award recently in Norwich from the local press about an innovative IT award. And, you know, we're now in the process of working out how can we roll this service out more broadly for consumers to get value and the merchants and the city centres and the high street to get away from people doing this to people doing this and they occasionally looking at that when there's something relevant. And as Proxama as a company, we are in the process of rolling out the technology of these things to be used by big advertisers across airports, buses, bus shelters and locations, with the aim that we can get people to be able to kind of interact the right time, the right place, when there's something valuable to them, rather than just being sent text messages or spam or content that they don't want, that's completely independent of where they are and what context they're in. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Great, thank you. That's brilliant. Obviously, super interesting projects. Fortunately, we have about 12 minutes left for questions from the audience towards our speakers. So does anyone have any?
I came to
Yes.
this session because I'm really interested in Irish towns and how to revive the high street. And I just feel I have to declare very uncomfortable about one major thing. Maybe I like to be anonymous as a shopper. But what about the thing that makes people loiter in high streets, that make them great places to be, is usually not spending money. And I just feel really, I need to make that point. I feel targeted, and I know your work is fantastic, but I feel so targeted for my money in this session. So something for no money.
Guy?
Let me stick my head above the parapet and see if I can give you an answer on that. I think your concern is shared by the majority, and we have to think about places that are it's your town centre, your place. The retailers that are in it, yes, they're there to try and sell things, but they also recognise, and I'm working with large and small retailers, they also recognise that if they don't create an enjoyable, positive experience in a town centre, that you've got plenty of other choices. And you also have the ultimate power. You can just go delete, unfriend, disconnect. You always have the power to do that. So if the high street community of big retail, small retail, micro business, non-profit, social enterprise, council amenities, if that high street community can't earn your trust, they're screwed, to put a technical point to it. And that trust is something that you have to do it's a one-to-one thing, because your relationship with the high street community, as everybody here has just demonstrated today, is on a one-to-one basis. You're going to use whatever device is your preferred device, very often a smartphone, often a tablet, sometimes a laptop, sometimes it's Mark 1 eyeball, and your size 9 feet, or 6, or whatever it is. But that's the trust that has to be earned. I mean, that's how I would answer it. And I would say that most retailers are cognizant and aware of your concerns about Big Brother and too much data, wanting to remain impersonal. I'm exactly the same.
I want to say something as well. Hopefully I haven't creeped people out, but I mean, we also do a lot of work with museums and the charity sector. So from a charitable perspective, one of the key reasons why people don't donate money is because they don't understand what the charity does. So one of the things that we've been doing with people like British Legion, for example, is actually turning poppy tins into something you can find information about what's actually being done, what they're doing. And actually, then at the bottom of it, you can then donate if you feel you want to, rather than having that in your face, put your cash in, which is a very, very overt thing. And there's a big reaction against charities and the way they're collecting money. But I think the key thing about all this is actually how do people create better engagements with the people that they want to communicate with, deal with, and ultimately transact with, whether that's a purchase or just giving somebody a good experience or giving something away for free.
There's something else that hasn't changed. Take a look at some of your Irish towns and cities, and I bet you some of the architecture there hasn't changed for centuries. Same in every place. And those places, that's the physical aspect of place. We all go there because we enjoy that. We enjoy the parks and open spaces. We enjoy the buzz, the crack on, the place, whether it's an indoor place, whether it's a public realm place. That's part of the experience, and we have to retain that. What we've got to do is to make sure that that experience is something that can also embrace the channels that retailers, large and small, and by retailers, I'm not just talking about people trying to sell you stuff. You can't get your hair cut online. You can't get your shoe mended online. You can't get, certain kinds of financial things. You've got to go and sit face to face and talk to people. That's all part of your high street experience. If you don't know about it, your high street experience is probably going to be a lesser one.
We are in Bristol, but apart from a very fleeting mention in one of the slide presentations, none of you said anything about the Bristol pound. Over to you.
I've worked in financial services and payments for a long time, and I'd say, what's the point? You've got Bitcoin, you've got pounds, you've got euros. Is it a loyalty scheme or is it a currency? You've then got to manage exchanges and things like that. Are you creating something overly complicated?
Well, just one thing about rewarding visits is the currency is the visit. That's the one thing that is shared by every town bricks and mortar retailer is someone coming through the door. And that's what Marks and Spencer's have in common with Joe's Pizza and the coffee shop. And so we took out the money side of it and said the visit is the thing, because that's the one thing that's needed. And if collaboration took place within a high street, within a community, about getting people to walk through the various doors, then that is something that's really quite powerful, because it takes the level of money out. And I think the earlier comment about money, I think it's a very valid point, because it's all about experience. 200 years ago, when you went shopping, the shopkeeper knew you by name, and he would probably get something sent round by the errand boy after you've done the shopping. That cannot take place these days, with millions more people living in the cities and the towns, and they don't know who you are. Even if you're a regular in one of your haunts, you don't know the staff because they're on casual time.
As I thought, you had missed the point.
Can I just, I think having lived in London, lived in Bristol, the one thing that we probably haven't mentioned here, which is very hard to kind of it's economically intangible, but it's the amount of pride that people feel in their high streets and in their city. I think the Bristol pound is a great example of that. So you can say like Bitcoin and all of that kind of stuff, the Bristol pound will never take off, but it's more that, yeah, but exactly. Yes, so, sorry, no, that's exactly what I'm saying. So it's been successful within Bristol because it's that sense of Bristol pride kind of coming together. And I was watching Points West this morning and all, yeah, exactly. So I think the one thing that we've all got to be mindful of, and anyone who's innovating in technology, is how when you're trying to reimagine the high street, making sure that all the solutions are tailored for each different high street. Coming back to what you were saying, is you don't want to feel targeted for your money whenever you walk down the street. You want to be part of that community. And that's quite hard to get across. And I think that's what we're all going to be doing over the next 2 years, and it's why it's such a long project and why we've got quite a bit of funding from the government, is looking at how you can take this innovative tech and tailor it so that you're moving it across the high street in the right way.
What I love about the Bristol and Totnes pound and the things like that is that it picks up on that realization that shopping local has, incredible value. And I'm very much aware of Bristol Pound and the Totnes Pound, and just the fact that it featured only once in our presentation, I think should not alarm you. I think you yourselves, I'm sure, know that the articulation of local currency programs like that, they're also starting to embrace some of these digital things. It's not little bits of paper so much anymore, is it? And no, it's not.
All right, I'm going to take the chairman's prerogative, and I think I'm going to try and shift gears just because we have now 3 minutes left. So I would like to get one more question in, if that's possible, from you.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of sort of comment. For reimagining the high street, I don't see much imagination. To me, I see a lot of market research. I fail to see the human connection. Apps aren't necessarily about human connection. So for me, I came here today expecting something really, really creative, really innovative. I expect us to look at experience around sharing, that encouraging more and more consumption. What I've seen here today is very much about consuming more crap, using these apps and stuff to gather more data, to consume more crap. So I have struggled with these presentations. If there is going to be millions of pounds spent on the future of cities, I think you've missed the point totally.
Oh, yeah, that again.
Okay.
Good
1
minute.
Good point, well made. It is not about retail transactions. The future of the high street is going to be about making it relevant to people. And because of what's happened in the world as we know it, this digital revolution, that the world has changed and the way we relate to it has changed. But fundamentally, as people and our expectations, that hasn't changed. And your expectation is of something more enriching, a more authentic, positive, human experience. I totally agree. If I could urge you to go online, look at the Digital High Street 2020 report, and look at the little bit that talks about the 7 attributes of successful places, there's not one real mention in there of money and transaction. It's all about the interaction of that place with a person. And I think that probably sets the tone for how the future high street, if you like, the response of the high street to the changing world we live in is coming. It's a much more holistic view of high street. If it's just about retail, that's just wrong. These guys are talking about things to do with apps and retail and buying stuff. Yes, that is the economic driver that sustains things. But parallel to that, an awful lot of other stuff happens, and they know it. And talking to large retailers, they're starting to understand that the rising tide floats all boats. Their big business and any small business is going to do much better when A, there are people in the high street because they're enjoying the experience, and B, those people only come back to the high street if their experience of it is something relevant. If they're just constantly spammed and sold things, they're not going to bother. So the high street's got to earn your trust.
Okay, I was told we have a hard stop, so I got to end it now. Thanks again to all the speakers.